project variables. So here I'm going to give you an introduction into project variables. So let's say you are the project manager and I am the CEO. And I've asked you to tell me about the status of the project. What would you tell me? Well, one thing you'll probably tell me is when the project is going to be finished. And that's good, because that's important for many reasons. First of all, if it's going to be finished late, we may lose some opportunities. And second, I am waiting for you to finish the project, release the team members so that they can work on other projects. So these are some reasons why actually it's important to monitor and control time. So we would consider time as one project variable to monitor. Now, what else would you tell me? Because I like to know stuff, and remember, I'm the CEO. So I would like to know, well, how much it's going to cost me to finish the project. So maybe we started the project with an estimate of 200,000, but now your latest forecast is that it could cost me 500,000. Oops. And I may not want to continue with the project then. So cost is another project variable to keep an eye on. Now let's play with that scenario we just discussed. So when we started the project, we said it would cost 200,000 and we would generate 80,000 profit per year. So that's good. But now the forecast is more than twice that, it's 500,000, but we can generate 400,000 profit per year. So the return on investment is much higher. So now I am a happy CEO. So I would like this project to continue. Then this desirable return, like the 400,000 per year, is what we refer to as benefits. And benefits can be monetary or non-monetary, but they always should be quantified and measurable. So benefit is another thing that I would like you to keep telling me about. So another project variable. Is there anything else you want to tell me? Sure. What about the product that you're going to create? So the total product from the project. Well, some projects will have a fixed product, but some will have a more dynamic one that emerges through the project. So it's important for you to tell me about this as well. Now, the formation of the product is what we describe as the scope. Okay, so I want you to consider scope as another project variable. You may have heard someone say, well, what's within scope of our outside scope and what is the project going to deliver? That's what we refer to as scope. Now, when we talk about scope, we learn a lot about the product of the project, but not everything. We don't actually learn how the product works and how it's satisfied the needs. When I say needs, I mean user needs. For example, if the product is going to work for a year before it breaks, or does it even have to work for 50 years before breaking? And these type of things are covered in quality. And that's why we would consider quality as another project variable. Now, all of these variables we talked about are uncertain. So we may express them in a single number. But in reality, they have a range, let's say from optimistic to pessimistic. And these ranges reflect the uncertainties of the project. And we usually refer to them as risk. Now, the overall risk of the project is important because while the most likely values of the variables may be acceptable, the far end of the range of value may not be. And that's why overall risk is another project variable that you have to keep an eye on. Something else? Yeah, well, in the previous version of PRINCE2, we had 6 project variables or 6 variables. And the new version has added a new one, and this is sustainability. So in other words, the latest version of PRINCE2 believes sustainability is a defining parameter in the project that has to be monitored and controlled just like time and cost. Now, the main question is, Why do we need all these variables? Why am I paying so much attention to them? Well, we spoke about one purpose, which is reporting. And reporting actually is an extension of a more fundamental concept, which we refer to as monitoring. So we need to monitor the project to know where it is and where it's going to be. And to monitor the project properly and correctly, we need to measure all these variables. And after monitoring then, we may need to control the project, for example, make small adjustments to get the project back on track. So again, we will be working with these 7 variables. Now there's even more. So you as project manager know that micromanagement is not a very good idea. So instead of making all the decisions for the team leaders and the project team members, you let them make certain decisions. But how are you going to do that? What's the best way to do that? Well, a good idea is to use thresholds or to set thresholds. So for example, you may let them make a decision up to 10,000 euro, but not more than that. So that's the limit of their threshold. And in that case, you can agree on that threshold of 10,000 euro, and then things become clear between you and the team leader and how that they work. But wait, is it enough to set a threshold for costs? How about time and quality and so on? Well, in fact, you need to set thresholds for all project variables. Now I have a question for you based on what I just said. Do you think we can use these variables when we discover a new issue, when we come across a new issue? And the answer is yes. So when you discover a new issue, the first thing you can ask is, what is the impact of this issue on the 7 variables? So what's the impact on time? What's the impact on cost? What's the impact on quality? And so on. And this information then will give you a very good idea on how important and sensitive the issue is. So if it's not sensitive, you don't have to spend too much time on it. But if it is sensitive and the impact is going to be high, then you've got to spend more time and get help from people. Now, what happens if the issue is really big and passes the threshold? Then you will just escalate the issue to higher level management. So that's how we can use project variables. And that's why it's important then to keep these variables in mind. So they are used almost in everything that we do, in our plans and delegation, in escalation, in monitoring and reporting. So now I think I've given you a very good overview on why we use variables and how they are used as well.